140 million people would surrender or become hostage to 4,000 individuals. I don't see that happening. I don't want to sound arrogant, but this is not a probability. Conduct of elections would be too far for me to comment at this stage. In 2019, we will hit their planes. We will respond in the same coin. And we do have the capacity to do it. Neither our bullets are old, whether they're criminal, whether they are scientists, whether they are teachers, whether they are rapists, whether they are killers, positive or negative. But you don't know.
Hello and welcome to InferTalks. Today for this special episode, I have with me the Chief Executive, who's the custodian for overseeing a free, fair and a transparent election in Pakistan. My impression is, you've guessed it by now. My guest today is the 8th Caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Anwaar Haq Kakar. Mr. Kakar, welcome to InferTalks.
Thank you for having me.
Right, so let's start off our conversation. And my very first question is, you're now Pakistan's 8th Caretaker Prime Minister. Tell us a bit about yourself. What has your journey been like from a young boy? What really got you interested into public policy issues? And your eventual appointment in this current role?
I'll be a bit honest that I was always fascinated by politics. There were family members who were part of National Awami Party at the time and during the 70s. My maternal uncle was imprisoned as a political prisoner. So I grew up in an environment where I had a lot of impressions, particularly from a Pashtun nationalist perspective. That was my initial encounter with politics, and then I had a journey of my own. And I did develop interest in politics as a discipline, as a practitioner, and there were many career opportunities, but somehow or the other, the destiny took me to choose politics. I started my career as a candidate for the National Assembly in 2008. Then I became a spokesperson for the government of Balochistan and then an advisor on information. From there, I got elected in the House of Federation as an independent candidate from the province of Balochistan. And now here I am as the 8th Caretaker Prime Minister of the country.
All right, sir. And now let me actually ask you another personal question, and this is about the influence that other people had actually had on you. Who do you think had the critical, most important influence on you as a person? And what values did you really learn from them?
I think so. If I go back and I try to peek in my past, the people who has left impression on my mind or my soul are mostly my teachers. I lost my mother quite early. I was 4.5. I lost my father when I was 17. So most of inspirations, and if I could take them as role model, were probably my teachers and the circles of my friends. And I would take a position that it was my teachers who actually designed me, who shaped me, who made me what I am, good or bad. Well, the bad part is mine, and I have many, but the good ones are theirs. I give entirely the credit to them.
Any particular teachers that come to your mind that you...
Amanullah Khan Rana, I don't have to think twice. I mean, he was my housemaster. He was one of the most learned men I've come across in my life. He was triple MA from Punjab University in early 1960s, and he ended up in the small town of Khattak, and he has got hundreds and thousands of teachers around the country and around the globe who do remember him, probably in more fondness than me. But I have a very special place for Rana Sahab, whom we would all call famously as Bade Rana Sahab, as there were two Ranas in the college. So one was the Chote Rana Sahab and the other was the Bade Rana Sahab. So Bade Rana Sahab is definitely the man who impacted and influenced a lot, and I learned a lot from him.
And what was the name of your house? And was it really
Khushal
an
house.
outstanding house at your college or at your school?
Yeah, there were six houses, and I was the resident of Khushal house, dedicated to famous poet, Pashtun poet, Khushal Khan, who again later became an iconic figure for me. If I have to rate someone in Pashto language, in Pashto literature, the most distinguished individual, no doubt, is Khushal Baba.
And why is that so? I mean, if you could sort of, educate the international audience.
A man who was exposed to 16th century political environment, a general, command over mysticism, who had a good savvy of having a political unit which could take on the political ideals and express itself in that political unit. He attempted for that, though he failed, but he could not unify all the Afghan tribes. But he could value and understand the strength of a political unit. The symbol of courage, candidness, honesty, and quite a bold intellectual pursuit on his own. He has not left any theme, initiating from sexual education to mysticism to the fighting spirits. He has more or less commented on all the aspects of life, and with best of its aesthetics and metaphors available in Pashto language.
Now, sir, let's speak about your province of Balochistan. You hail from the province itself, and it happens to be, the country's largest province. My question is, before I come to my question, the fact is there's very little understanding, even within the policy circles, about the province itself. You bring a very grounded perspective from the province. And the fact is, the province is afflicted by massive challenges on the governance front. There's a challenge with respect to militancy and an active wave of terrorism, which also has an external dynamic to it as well. But then at the same time, in your recent statement, you said that the criminal justice system also needs improvement. And we also see that there are grievances of the people as well. I have a twofold question. And my first question is, as someone from the province who understands its dynamics, what will be your out-of-the-box solution, even after you've stepped down, to heal the wounds of the province and bring durable peace over there?
First of all, let's analyze what the situation is. There is a armed militancy going on, and that armed militancy primarily led by organizations like BLA, BRA, BLF, so on and so forth. They're all designated terrorist organization by the government of United States of America, United Kingdom, European Union, Chinese government. But a section of the society here is in the mode of denial, and they do not acknowledge and recognize and accept these entities as terrorist entities. And they somehow or the other try to link it, rationalize it, and explain it with underdevelopment, with non-investment of the state. I mean, there are many underdeveloped areas around the globe or within Pakistan, but they don't resort to violence. All of them, if you observe, the entire African continent is not violent. There are violent patches, but the whole of the continent is underdeveloped, but still the political violence is not visible everywhere. There are settled places in the European continent where the political violence is exhibited, for instance, ATA in case of Spain. So economic argument is not always applicable on the political violence. Sometimes it links itself with identity politics. Catalonia, Irish question, Tamil. Tamils used to generate around $2 billion from Tamil diaspora around the world. So the finances was not a problem. They did not invest those $2 billion to improve the infrastructure of the Tamil region within Sri Lanka or contribute towards their educational system or health system, but they used to run a proper insurgency. So when it comes to political violence and insurgency, mostly it is imbibed in identity politics. And that is what exactly the case is in Balochistan. These minority organizations, they claim that on the basis of that identity, they want to crave out a new geography, a new country, and for the attainment of that target, the armed struggle is legitimate. They are ready to kill for it, they are ready to die for it. This is their stated position. This is not my conjecture. This is what they say in their podcasts, in their vlogs, in their published statements, in their public positions, and they keep on doing this messaging for last many decades. And actually you'd see the translation of those policy when the security forces are being targeted, anything which is emblem or a symbol of the state of Pakistan is being attacked there. I'm not bringing the ethnography that only the Punjabis are being targeted. Well, of course the Punjabis are being targeted, but along with the Punjabis, anything which is related to the state of Pakistan is being targeted. Security forces, people from outside the province, people within Baloch community or ethnic group who actually side with the state of Pakistan are being targeted. They are being eliminated. So anyone who do not subscribe to their version, their radical version, is a legitimate target to be eliminated. That's what exactly they are doing. But in the rest of Pakistan, somehow or the other, some people who become the champions of the human rights or who claim to be part of the intelligentsia, they try to portray and project this violence and try to rationalize it. And they link it with so-called high-handedness of the state. In such situation, when such a challenge emerge, who would respond to these violent actors? These are the non-state actors and violent one. I cannot send people from WABDA to respond to those. I can't send people from railways to respond to them. I can send people from FBR to respond to them. Who will go there? Of course, the Constitution has designed the people in uniform to respond to those challenges, be they police force or paramilitary or military. There would be an assessment of the challenge, and accordingly the tools would be applied and they would respond to those challenges. And when they respond to those challenges, the war of narratives begins. The people on the side of these militants or their sympathizers would be just focusing on the application of the force by the state agents, and they would try to skew and distort that which would suit the argument of violation of human rights, just completely ignoring the violent part of those entities and those organizations, which, by the way, as I have explained earlier, all the accountable and responsible governments of the world have declared terrorist. And there are laws that if you support such terrorists, even which commit atrocities on the foreign land, they would be liable for 20 years of imprisonment. And if it results in somebody's death, that can lead to life imprisonment. Unfortunately, we are not advocating this basic right even on foreign lands. We should, I think so, pursue such people on American continent, on European continent, lawful pursuance of all such individuals, because they are the one who are perpetrator of genocide. They are committing genocide. People think that genocide is only being committed by certain states. It is actually more committed by non-state actors. And in this case, these militants are the one who are the perpetrator of the genocide. And unfortunately, they are being portrayed as the champions of the human rights.
But recently, we've also seen the government in Balochistan also have various groups which were previously engaged in armed militancy, gave up their arms and, come to some kind of a peaceful agreement with the government as well. A lot of these complicated issues like these are finally resorted or resolved on the table itself. What do you think would be the preconditions to actually bring an end?
Another, I feel, is a fallacy of idea that all such matters are resolved eventually through dialogue. There is no statistical data available to support this claim.
But how else then we do bring durable peace? Yes, sir.
When I say there is no statistical data available behind such claims, the best international practices who have written on insurgencies, the available data shows that post-Second World War till now, the contest between the nation state and the insurgent or the non-state groups or actors has been that 38% states have won and 36% non-state actors have won. But the hardcore reality remains that the decision lies on battlefield, not on the dialogue. It is decided on the battlefield that who's winning and who's losing. And post that decision, negotiation starts. This is a false idea that peace can be achieved through dialogue. It can never achieve through dialogue in that way. One of the party has to win and the other has to lose. Or at least a sense of loss has to be there. ETA, in the case of Spain, they ceased. They did not have any negotiation. They said, we abandon armed struggle because we can't afford it any further. So the question was settled. They did not ask for the separation of Catalonia, and neither the Spaniards accepted that. So one party has to realize that this fight is not worth further. Whosoever realizes that is the losing side and the other side is the winning side. This is the hardcore reality and unfortunate reality of our politics. If these militants, if these organizations, if they sooner realize this, we should welcome them. They should abandon violence. They should come up publicly, and once they abandon these violent movements, then you can have negotiation. You can't just talk to them. They would be continuously killing people. And when you say about such overtures of negotiations, sometimes they would be telling you that bring the United Nations. They would ensure that when you are leaving these lands. So these are the non-starters. No state, no matter what. Most of the people probably criticize my tone and my firmness. The state of Pakistan is a country of 240 million people. Balochistan's population is around 10 million people. Amongst those 10 million people, 5 million or around plus are Baloch. Amongst those 5 million people, there are around 4,000 to 5,000 individuals who are on the side of the militants. So a country of 240 million people would surrender or become hostage to 4,000 individuals. I don't see that happening. I don't want to sound arrogant, but this is not a probability. This is, to me, it seems undoable. The better course probably would be for those militant organizations that they do realize that it is unattainable. They are pushing their generation for an unwanted and unwarranted war. They are the one who has initiated it, and they are the one who has to end it.
And what would a roadmap to peace actually look like? I mean, in a more idealistic manner, what would it really look like? Even from a normative sense of point of view.
Look, if such kinetics continues, I don't know the timeline, but it definitely would be a disadvantage to them, not to the state of Pakistan. Pakistan is numerically superior. Pakistan is, in terms of resources, superior to that struggle. Ethically, legally, all the advantages lies with the state of Pakistan. They, as I have told you, are treated as a terrorist organization in and around the globe. our response to this violent challenge is considered legitimate in the eyes of the world. Their violence is considered as an illegitimate act. So sooner or the later, the kinetic side would be at a disadvantage when it comes to their so-called struggle. The best course would be, which is taken by many nationalist parties within Balochistan, its national party, few others, mainstream political parties. The constitutional forums of provincial assembly, national assembly, senate, where you go and have your representation, your government formation is happening in a constitutional manner like the rest of the Pakistan, and the actual challenges of governance. And the people should be made accountable who are responsible for running the governance. If in this so-called conflict, people are being ignored or people are left to appeasement and they continue performing or non-performing on the account of governance, that would mitigate the crisis, that would, I think so, further exacerbate the crisis. That is the more serious challenge. We should be focusing on that instead of looking towards these militants and trying to woo them one way or other. The actual challenge lies in appropriate governance, because the good governance has become a cliche. Appropriate governance I'm applying. That is the real challenge. That is the actual challenge. We should focus on.
And my second part of this question was actually about your recent remarks about improvements that are required in the criminal justice system itself. Let me ask you, what exactly would improvement in the criminal justice system really look like to you?
Look, whenever I approach this issue of terrorism, what are the constitutional arrangement? The constitutional arrangement is that Constitution has given birth to a parliamentary system. That parliamentary system comprises of a federal government, which is shaped up by National Assembly along with the Senate. Then you have got provincial assemblies. They give birth to the provincial governments. You have got an health department which provides the health services, education department for the educational services. You have got a tax revenue entity which collects your taxes, and then it provides the finances for the government to spend over the social sectors and other requirements of the government. The business of the government is running constitutionally in this manner. And when there is a challenge of the security and there is a challenge to order, social order, who does respond to that? The civil law enforcement agencies, and then you have got the paramilitary, then you have got the military, and all of them have got certain legal frameworks. You have got the right of apprehension. You can conduct certain operations, special operations against organized crime, terrorism, or other actors who are challenging the social order. When you bring it into the real term and do apprehension of such individuals, then you have to bring them to the courts, and another procedure starts of the prosecution, and then the trial goes on. What has happened in our case that some 90,000 individuals have lost their life to this wave of terrorism countrywide. And some 90 individuals have not been convicted for these crimes. So there is a crisis. When people are brought in before this criminal justice system, the conviction rate, I'm not saying that whosoever you bring before the court should be convicted. But if 90,000 individuals have lost their lives and 9 individuals have not been convicted, so who were their killers? Who are they? Where are they? It's a question which needs serious thinking. So where is the gap? If you delve into that and try to dissect that, there would be people who would be shifting the onus on the prosecution, that, oh, we have got a poor prosecution, they do not bring the evidence which is admissible, so when there are no admissible evidence, courts can't convict them, though we know that they are the criminals, but still we can't. So this is the crisis. On the other hand, the people who are supportive of such individuals that they should be brought into the courts, courts becomes a way of exonerating them instead of convicting them. So you have all these hardcore terrorists who get exonerated by this criminal justice system and they revert to the terrorism again. So what do you do with this cycle? Who's going to address the improvement part on this criminal justice system? You can't expect the people from police or paramilitary or military to ponder and mull over and design a legal framework. This is the job of the parliament. The parliament has to focus on this. If you send your kids, if you send your children to be part of these institutions, who's a recruit in police or paramilitary or military? They're all my children. They're the children of this nation. So actually, if your real child is part of this institution, what would you like? That they should have the best of the best equipment to win from that terrorist, or you want the terrorist to be advantageous to him? Of course not. So what sort of a legal framework you want for them? What sort of a criminal justice system you want for them? That it should be advantageous to your child or that terrorist? So these are the kind of clarity which is needed and required in the statecraft. We are not a state of thugs that we won't just make enforced disappearances and we engage in ill practices which brings a bad name to Pakistan. But in order to address that, you need to have the right kind of legislation and the improvement of the procedures. So who's going to do that?
Minister, if I may interject, you served as a senator as well. You have quite an exposure from a public policy perspective, also understand counter-terrorism and extremism-related issues. What were some of the measures that you tried undertaking in your own capacity in the past? And if you haven't been able to address those issues that you've just alluded to, what kind of measures would you like to take in future to help address them?
Look, whatever I've said over here is my individual perspective. I was an independent senator, and for legislation, there are large political entities in this country with millions and millions of followers. It is primarily their role, duty to give manifestos on this account to the people of Pakistan, and so the people of Pakistan can support them. I am a lone voice. I failed, for instance. I did not contribute on the floor of the Senate. If I can be challenged with this question, that what was your role, I'm baffled why these political parties are not being challenged for the same question. If it is legitimate to challenge me as an individual, which it is, I should be challenged. I should give my own explanation of my failing. But the more important question is a party with 120 or 140 National Assembly members, 30 or 28 members of the Senate, members in the provincial assemblies, who are running the mandated governments for years and years. Why aren't they? And it's not just these 5 years. You are facing this situation since 2007. Why didn't we do it? Yes, I failed. Fine, I'm going home. What about the whole of the political culture and party?
So in that light, I mean, if they can benefit from your perspective, and perhaps you can come up with something that can help at least address those flaws, what would you do differently?
If you just Google it, I've been raising the same questions, commenting on the same themes on the floor of the House time to time. I've been critical of all these things. It's part of the record. I probably have contributed more than 6 to 10 times on these issues with different angles. But has anyone listened to me? No. So what do I do? It requires a larger political dialogue. It requires a kind of a political dialogue in which the actual challenge of the governance has to be done in an environment where people are quite open to such ideas. Look, this is an era of subspecialty. If somebody has done a master's in public policy from Oxford, cannot be taken as an authority on insurgency. He might be a well-read guy, he might be quite potent in some area of public policy, but if you have an issue with the cardiac situation, can you go to ophthalmologist for treatment? Well, both are doctors. Why don't you do that? So this is an era of specialization. If we have got challenges in the security domain, in economic domain, in the domain of governance and other areas, you have to have consultation from the specific experts in that area. And that kind of intellectual elite is required to give you the input, and then the political bosses make that informed decision. That is the course, that is the pathway I think so Pakistan should take.
All right. And now let's speak of the threat of terrorism itself in a broader context. And this is about a resurgent threat from the TTP itself. Pakistan has on numerous occasions, and in the last 1 year, we've seen quite a spike in violence from the group. Pakistan of lately has raised this concern with the government in Kabul, and I'm speaking of the Taliban over there, of somehow alleviating Pakistan's concerns. What kind of progress has you seen so far, or have you seen so far, under your watch from the government over there?
I think so we are progressing in the right direction. My own assessment and view is the firmness vis-a-vis TTP and its affiliates, all the terrorist organization, is clearly exhibited in the consistent position of Pakistan since last almost 1 year. And the messaging on the other side is that there will be no surrender whatsoever to these terrorists. If we have to fight for next 100 years, we are ready for it. We're going to fight. So this firmness is conveyed to the other side. The resolve to fight is there, no matter what. We are not looking for coalition support fund to fight TTP. We will raise our own taxes, we will make our own bullets, we will make our own guns, and we'll fight them. We have got the capacity to do, we have got the resolve to do, and we are doing it. Most of the people raise this question to me that, oh, you were quite supportive of the idea that TTA and the US should have negotiation with one another. Why not TTP and Pakistan? My simple answer is that Americans were going home. Where are we going? It's all, the analogy is different. I am here defending my soil. I am here defending my home. This is home, and we will defend it. For Americans, Kandahar was not home. And TTA did not occupy Florida that they are claiming that they have won the war from them. Americans simply lost the interest instead of losing the war. So the situation is altogether different. Whatever came, this militia, the armed resistance of TTA, now they are responsible for the governance of Afghanistan. We are telling them that whatever circumstances brought you into the government, now this is your responsibility and you should be accountable for it, that anyone from the soil of Afghanistan should not be a threat either to Pakistan or anyone else in the region. And they, by the way, agree to that. Their top leadership, particularly Mr. Haibatullah, fully subscribe to this idea. But we do understand and appreciate that there are layers of influence in the Afghan-Taliban arrangement or regime. It's not a central authority in that sense of Westphalian idea of the nation state, where there is a central authority and the rest of the powers are being translated from that, and it's implemented in the smooth manner. There are different layers of influence in that regime. So that is one challenge. We are communicating with them, we are talking to them, we are applying the leverages we have on the side of Pakistan, and we do witness a lot of change of behavior, positive change of behavior from the other side. And I hope when inshallah the next mandated government would come, they will continue with this policy, and it would be translated into relatively good Pakistan-Afghanistan relationship.
Is there a timeline in mind when we could actually start seeing a downward spike in violence from TTP?
Whenever the people start thinking in timeline, they fail themselves. The insurgencies normally, they fight on the two principles, the principle of survivability and the principle of lethality. Any non-state actor or insurgent has a basic strategy to survive. Sometimes even they negotiate with the opposite side for the survivability, and they get a lease of 1 decade or 2 decades or 4 decades, so they could just survive. Nobody can predict, and nobody should think for these timelines. This is would be a very wrong approach towards such a problem. One should be addressing the entire aspect and shades and nuance of all that narrative which the TTP has created. And once you address them and bring back those followers, for that you need courage, clarity to take on that narrative. And once you start doing that, probably then the timeline would be shortened in itself. But if you just focus and try to bring these goalposts in terms of kinetics, they are delusional, they are evasive, and they are misleading. We should avoid that.
And speaking more on reciprocity, there was a recent terrorist attack in Dera Ismail Khan where 20 or more personnel of Pakistan's security forces were martyred, were actually killed in that terrorist attack. The government actually came up with a demand from the Taliban to hand over individuals that were based on Afghan soil, to hand them over to Islamabad. What has been the progress so far on that demand?
There are many things happening behind the scene which is not for public consumption. And there are things which we feel is a change in behavior which was targeted, which was a goalpost for our side. And we are more committed to bring that instead of just making the information public. All I can divulge here at this moment is that there is good progress and there is a positive change of behavior we are observing on the other side.
All right. And recently we also saw the Army Chief visit Washington D.C. How has the mood been in the Washington D.C. in terms of, helping Pakistan, or at least understanding Pakistan's position in terms of how urgent this terrorism is from the group of TTP itself?
I think so. The entire Western world, led by United States of America, is quite sanguine and open, and they are appreciative of the challenges, and particularly when there has been a withdrawal from that region and the kind of challenges it has brought in terms of gadgets being held by all these non-state actors and the rest of the challenges that now we have to respond on our own. They're quite open, they're quite supportive and appreciative, and exploring different areas where the coordination, not just on the account of terrorism, but on other accounts also, on the economic front, on the other areas, climate change, where they can have a constructive engagement with the state of Pakistan.
Now let me come to this question of repatriation. Over 3 million Afghans, both documented and undocumented, have considered Pakistan as their second home. And they've been living over here since 1979, after the Soviet invasion. Over 500,000 undocumented Afghans have been sent back to Afghanistan as part of the repatriation plan. Let me ask you, what really prompted this decision in the first place? And do you think you got an unnecessary flack for the decision itself?
No, I think so. This was one of the best decisions this government has made. And probably it would have been very challenging for any elected or political government to make such a decision, despite this, that most of them would have wanted to do it. Majority of the Pakistanis were behind this move. There are some who were critical and who opposed this. I'm not saying that there was a consensus, but my own assessment and the kind of service we were receiving, the majority of the Pakistanis supported this. First of all, non-documented aliens do not have any lawful right to stay here. Where on earth unlawful presence of people on any territory is accepted and supported by the host community? Anywhere in the world. Is it being supported in the US, Canada, UK, France, Germany? Well, they talk about the European fortress. The Australians have settled and identified island where the foreigners are first treated there, where they do have the right to enter Australia or not. What happened on the Mediterranean shores in Greece? What are the laws being brought in the Westminster Parliament where people would be taken to the African continent, to Rwanda and other countries, where they would be treated whether they have got the right to enter to UK? This unique leniency is only being supported in Pakistan, where the people are not contributing. They're not in your database. You don't know whether they are business people, whether they are criminal, whether they are scientists, whether they are teachers, whether they are rapists, whether they are killers. They could be any of those, positive or negative. But you don't know, and you are not interested to know about it. You're just lying back, and all you are interested in is, or asking is, oh, well, why are we sending them back?
No, but
Who are they?
What prompted the decision in the first place?
What prompted the kind of terrorism we were facing, the kind of organized crime we were facing, the kind of contribution towards the economy was concerned, was happening to us, the Afghan transit trade, their involvement in all that, and the kind of impact it was bringing to our economic health. These were all factors which prompted us that we need to do something. You don't know what Afghan transit trade did to our economy. Some $5 to $6 billion worth goods were coming, and they were flooded again to the market of Pakistan. And due to that, there was an echo effect where your domestic industry faced an unfair challenge and competition. The domestic industry was going down. It was impacting the unemployment. The levy which you were supposed to collect on taxation on such goods were gone. And no one is thinking about it. No one is interested to know about it. The impact, more or less, into the related activities was in or around $20 billion, even probably more than that. And here we go, we don't know anything about it. And we're not even interested to explore and understand and know. We're just critical of our decisions, any decision of the government. That is part of the problem. And whosoever were documented here, who were part of the system, we're not sending them back. From day one, we set all of the Western diplomats, domestic audience, that look, here we are only sending back the illegal aliens, and Pakistan as a sovereign country has got all the right to do that. No one can force us to host illegal people. We can send them to US, UK if they are interested. We don't mind. They can take 500,000 illegal Afghans to their own countries. We will facilitate if they are interested. We're not against them. They're still our brothers even if they are illegal aliens. But if they have to come to my house, they have to seek permission. They have to have a regulated movement. That movement has to be regulated by laws, by immigration laws. There's nothing wrong in that. We are trying to rationalize our relationship with Afghanistan. What was happening to all these illegal aliens? They were caught by the policemen or other law enforcement agencies, and the kind of a culture we have, they would take bribes from them, they would attack their dignities. Is this kind of a treatment appropriate for an Afghan? Or the one who would go there, seek a legal permission, come here, and if encountered by any law enforcement on my side, they would show their legal documents, their dignity would be protected, they won't be exploited for bribes. Our option is far better even to the Afghans. And over here, the sympathizer who want to sympathize with these people, they are not talking about revamping the system. I don't want that 500 rupees or 5,000 rupees should go into the pocket of a policeman in terms of bribe. If he has to contribute, let it be contributed towards the exchequer of Pakistan.
In terms of revamping the system, that would actually require scaling up the government's ability to provide visas or other
Yes,
mechanisms.
if they want to come for jobs, if they want to come for study, if they want to come for business, they would be part of a database. They would be in our system.
But what would the foreign ministry do in order to accommodate a huge bulge of demand for people who have to actually move on a frequent basis?
Well, that is a policy challenge that has to be addressed in terms of a policy. We would rationalize and ease down the visa regimes. We can do that. We can exploit online opportunities and others. So we can improve and further those services. That is an administrative challenge that can be handled.
Well, speaking of international multilateral bodies, they do appreciate and they do understand Pakistan's sovereign right to send back illegal aliens. But the fact is, and it's been reported that the UN agencies actually urged the government to implement a screening mechanism to identify individuals which are in need of international protection. So my question is, how has the government has the government come up with measures to protect vulnerable segments of the undocumented Afghan nationals?
Well, that has been attended, that has been completely looked for. There were sections of society which were vulnerable, which we do understand that if they are sent back, their life would be at threat. So we were in close coordination with all the missions, important missions, Western missions here in Islamabad, along with the UN agencies. And there were different mechanisms which we have agreed upon, and there are no complaints on that account.
And have they started being implemented as well?
They're already being implemented, and there are no complaints on that account that the government has done any violation or have put anyone vulnerable at risk.
And now let's speak of elections. We see there's a resurgent threat from terrorism. The security situation does not really seem extremely ideal. We've recently also seen an adoption of a resolution in the Senate as well by an independent candidate. Do you think the overall prevailing security situation, can it affect the conduct of general elections on February 8th, 2024?
Well, there are two aspects to that. Would it affect the conduct of elections would be too far for me to comment at this stage. Is there a security threat or is there a challenge posed by terrorism? Of course there is. No denying that. Particularly south of KP, there is a lot of vulnerability to the candidates. There is a serious challenge. The wave of terrorism and the spike in all these activities have been witnessed for the last few months. Balochistan, some area. But would it be linked to overall electoral exercise and what sort of impact it would bring in the representation which we are hoping to have in the next parliament is still, I would say, not at the level that it would raise the question of the whole process legitimacy. So till this moment, I think so we are heading for elections, and despite these challenges which we need to cater for, some difficulties would be there, very difficult.
So, Prime Minister, are you suggesting can it be deferred, or the elections are
likely to take place? No, I'm not suggesting that at all. What I'm saying is that the two aspects are that I can't link them with the electoral process, but having said this, that does not mean that the security challenge is not there. It's there. The threat of terrorism is there. And anticipation on candidates that they would be either assaulted or their campaigns would be attacked, that potential remains.
And what was your government's position?
I'm not trying. Well, my response, of course, is that we have to respond to these terrorists. We can't afford, whether there is an election or not. This is my whole point. You cannot surrender, you cannot afford not to respond to those.
And allow me to interject you here. What is your government's position to this resolution that was adopted yesterday, calling for postponement of elections?
I do not see that there is any legal implication. I mean, there is not, Senate's resolution is not mandatory upon the government to follow that. That is the legal understanding as far as the government is concerned. We did oppose it in the House of Federation. The member of the cabinet did not support that resolution. And there is a legal requirement that we have to respond to that resolution and submit a report within 2 months. So we will seek and do the vetting from the law department and see what would be the legal position from the side of the government, President, Election Commission, all has to, I think so that they are bound to respond to it. So we will respond accordingly.
And if there are certain constituencies which are actually prone or vulnerable to violence, can we actually have more like a repeat of what happened back in 2013 and 2018? Like in certain constituencies, elections were postponed. But as far as the general elections were concerned, they were definitely held on time.
I think so the lead role over here is of Election Commission of Pakistan. And let them assess and judge on that account that if there are such constituencies, what would be the solution, what would be the way forward, and how to go about it.
But you being as the head of the custodian government, would you be willing to provide all the support that is necessary to, if the election is taking place on February 8th, to allow it to be conducted in a peaceful manner?
We've already committed it. We are already exhibited that commitment, whether the requirement of security from the side of the military is concerned, police or other law enforcement, finances are available. We will definitely provide that to the Election Commission of Pakistan, but certain constituencies, whether there should be elections or they should be left out, is for the Election Commission of Pakistan to decide.
Now, before I move on to another topic, let me bring in another question about the elections itself. There's ongoing litigation in different courts. Multiple grievances have been raised by different candidates. Complaints have been forwarded by the officials of the Election Commission as well. And there's a lot of public scrutiny as well about the process. We're almost a month away from elections. As the custodian of the election process as well, sir, what are you planning to do to resolve these concerns? And when I say you, I mean the entire government.
Well, the processes are within the system. It is the forums are available. The judiciary is there. The Election Commission is there. Let them have the remedy on the right forums, which I'm sure everyone is doing. Our responsibility is not to go and start performing the role of the judiciary and influencing the administration or the role of the ROs to either obstruct someone or construct an opportunity for someone. Let them make their administrative decisions or other decision, and if someone feels that they have been unfairly treated, the forums are available for them. Let them exploit those forums. This is the way our democracy is. This is the way 1973 Constitution suggests you to conduct elections. If the larger population of Pakistan do not agree on that, let them change the system next time. I'm not responsible for that. And if there is a change system, we will go according to that system. Till the time you have adopted constitutionally to carry on with the system is offering all its safety valves, and get the remedy and mitigation from there.
And if there are directions by, say, the courts or, say, by the Election Commission or any other government agency, what would be the support that your government would be providing in terms of alleviating those concerns?
Well, if it comes to that, we will respond to it, but in speculative manner, I can't answer such questions. What are the specific directions of a court or any court? We will look into that. If it's in a high court, probably we would be having an option either to follow it or come into an appeal. So whatever the directions or the nature of the directions are, we will deliberate on those. But if there are something specific, I can respond to that, but not in speculative manner.
Right. Now let's speak of the economy. IMF is expected to carry out a first review under the current $3 billion standby agreement on the January 11th of 2024. The next tranche is expected to come in the second week of April worth $1.8 billion US. Can you spell out the reforms your cabinet is expected to take between now and until the next month?
Well, we have brought in an agenda on the reform of FPR, which is in line with the IMF conditionalities also. We have achieved the targets of the tax receivables in the first quarter, which is a remarkable achievement for this government. We are trying to rationalize and reduce the expenditure of the government. So these are all agendas which we are pursuing, and we hope will bring the economic dividends which is required and is a goalpost for this government.
And can you spell out the specific reforms even at the FPR in terms of tax collection or in terms of certain segments of the society that you're willing to target?
It was brought on the agenda of the cabinets. It's quite extensive. It's quite detailed, where some 3 heads are being envisioned to be constructed, where the customs would be under different head, and the tax policy unit would be under different head. So there is a detailed plan, and once it would be approved by the cabinet, it would be in the public domain.
And I'm sure, since you've shown the appetite to carry out a lot of unpopular measures, can sectors like agriculture, the real estate, be also taxed in the upcoming cycle of reforms?
Well, the parliament has to come up with the finance bill to tax people. That is their right to do that. An interim government probably could not bring new radical introduction as far as the taxation is concerned, like, for instance, taxing agriculture sector or retail or other. We are suggesting all those reform agenda to them, and let there be a government on 9th February, and let them decide what they want to do with this country.
And now let's speak about the Special Investment Facilitation Council. The last government and the interim government have been overseeing it. How much has the SIFC been able to attract in terms of the foreign investments?
I think so. SIFC is a brilliant initiative, and due to this initiative, we were able to sign around $20 to $25 billion worth MOUs with the UAE's government, around $10 billion with the Kuwaitis, and some $6 to $7 billion are coming from the Dubai government, and potentially Qatar and Saudi Arabia are in line, and there is a probability that after elections they would come on that too. The idea of the SIFC is to facilitate and bring down the bureaucratic hurdles, which usually are when it comes to any foreign investors. And now it is enlarging its mandate, which is supported by law, that they can bring in anything which they feel is appropriate and suitable on this platform. And domestic investors would be also coalesced on the platform of SIFC. I have seen a lot of positivity from the outsiders, from the foreign investors, that they are genuinely interested to work in support and in partnership with this platform, because their sense of security is ensured over there, sense of continuity is addressed over there, and military, which is part of that forum as an institution by law, provides them a lot of comfort zone. So MOUs are signed. It would transform into due diligence. From due diligence, it would go into the tangible projects. It will take a bit of time. The fruits would come, but the seeds have been sown in from SIFC, and I expect a lot of good.
And could you really give us a breakdown of the sum that you've actually cited in terms of, say, the 25 billion US dollars and the other figures that you've quoted? What would be the areas where the major investments would really be coming in exactly?
It is in agriculture, it is in IT, it is in mining. These are the three main areas where it's in the human resource training. It is into the ecosystem of the mining industry also. For instance, there are certain provision of water projects into the Khattak where the Kuwaitis are coming. Into the energy sector also, some of them are coming. Road infrastructure is also a small portion, but there is a portion to that also. Development of the ports, Port Qasim and other areas, they are intervening over there also. So there are multiple areas where the interventions are coming.
And now let me bring your attention to subcontinent itself. We expect another election of Lok Sabha in India between April and May in 2024. If any event takes place to justify similar to Balakot attack that took place in 2019, whether you will be in the office by then or not, what will Pakistan's response be to it?
Let me be very clear on that. When it comes to South Asia, till the time the resolution of Kashmir issue has not happened, the potential for conflict, low intensity conflict, high intensity conflict, outright war would always be there. No matter how peace loving we are, no matter how doves we have turned ourselves into, no matter how we feel that we should avoid confrontation in all the sense of the word, the potential is still there. And anything, anytime can trigger any sort of exchange. So we should not suffer from naivety. We should be prepared for it. We should be aware of the threat. And any such any of act which can be translated as an act of war should be responded accordingly.
And what will Pakistan's response be if something along the lines of, what happened in 2019 is being deliberated by India? What would Pakistan's policy position be?
Pakistan would exactly do the same which it did in 2019. We will hit their planes.
All right.
We will respond in the same coin. And we do have the capacity to do it. Neither our bullets are old, nor is our determination. Our bullets are also new, and our determination is quite renewed and fresh. So no one should be delusional about the responses of Pakistan. We have got an entire defense mechanism, not for the reason that somebody would come and kill our people and we will be just sitting home. That would be very naive for anyone to think.
All right, now, Prime Minister, let's wrap up this conversation. And before I do, my last question is, again, about you. What are your plans after you have, handed over the power to the newly elected government? What do you plan to do afterward?
Well, I haven't thought about it, but I would be looking for some sort of a social or political role, or whatever I can find, either returning to the parliament or maybe outside the parliament. But yes, an active public life would be there. This is what I envisage for myself.
Prime Minister Anwaar Haq Kakar, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this conversation with Mr. Anwaar Haq Kakar. Our team works very hard to make this work possible, and it would mean the world to us if you could like and share our content. And if you'd like to stay informed on upcoming podcasts and other work, please hit the bell icon.